I hope my 20s will be better than they have been so far, because they have been mediocre. Story 1. Brother, life is a blast right now. I am excelling in school. My family is doing great. And the Kawasaki ZX6, our motorcycle, excites me every time I ride it. I seriously cannot and will not complain. Story 2. Absolutely. My 20s were all about anxiety, insecurity, and not feeling good enough. I am a confident and capable person in my 30s. Story 3. Your 20s lay the foundation for your 30s and 40s. I am 42 now, but my 20s were unproductive. I spent my time studying and building the foundations of my career instead of partying and goofing off. My 30s more than made up for the lack of fun I had. I got married, started traveling the world, bought a couple of homes, made some great money, and invested wisely. All things that would not have been possible if I had not worked so hard and sacrificed my 20s for the greater good. My 30s were the best time of my life. Looking back, I should have had a little more fun in my 20s, done some partying, met some people, and experienced more of life. But I would not trade my current life for anything. Story 4. I have a beautiful partner, a cat and a dog, a house, and can afford a Nintendo Switch 2 at launch. I could be doing a lot better, and I could easily be doing a lot worse. I am very lucky and try to remind myself of that. Story 5. It gets better the older you get, as long as you do the necessary things to make it that way. Story 6. 30 is when you realize what life is about. The hyper attitude mellows out and you appreciate the little things you love. Coffee in the morning, reading a book, and more. The late 20s and 30s are when I understood how unimportant the fear of missing out is. Growing up, to me, means not being nervous about what you are unable to take part in. Just be present. Story 7. Was in a relationship with my high school sweetheart, had a house and kids. She was partying and asked for an open relationship, which was not my thing. I found out she had been seeing someone else. I took care of all the bills. We separated and sold our home. A year later, I have been in my new house, have shared custody, and am mentally, emotionally, and physically happier. What I am trying to say is that no matter what life throws at you, it is not the end. Never give all of yourself to someone who is not going to give you a piece of themselves in return. Wishing happiness, health, and wealth to whoever reads this. Story 8. If my 20s were a huge roller coaster of high highs and low lows, then my 30s are a stable, somewhat boring path. I am far more comfortable than I have ever been. Story 9. Getting better at managing my depression and anxiety. I have been able to find work, which is better than being homeless and completely disabled in my 20s. Story 10. I have a career and respect that I never expected to have. 4.5 years of weekly or bi-weekly therapy have taught me more about myself, so I am much more confident about who I am. I have hobbies and enough disposable income to enjoy life to an extent, but I still get stressed, panicked, and depressed. I would say I did not start to really feel good until age 31 or 32, and it has been a roller coaster. I have experienced the highest highs and the lowest lows in that time. I am turning 36 this year, so we will see how the second half of my 30s goes. Story 11. My circumstances are not actually better. I just feel better now. Throughout my 20s, I lived with my girlfriend. We moved to a different state and got a great place together. Then, as soon as I turned 30, the relationship ended. I had major health complications and moved back in with my mom. Felt like the world was over. 2 years later, I am happily single, solo traveling the world, meeting new people weekly, and very happy with the way everything is. As far as money, I never had much then or now, but I also do not work. I have just learned to make a little go a long way. Story 12. I can easily say something just switched when I turned 30. When I say it is the prime, it is absolutely the prime. I do not even have to try anymore with women like I did in my early 20s. Story 13. So much better. A lot of things clicked for me between ages 29 and 31, and I saw my worth as well as the consistency of years of commitment to myself and my career. It's still quite young, early 30s retrospectively, but the confidence in your abilities and being comfortable in who you are makes all the difference. Use your 20s to adventure and learn as much as you can about everything: career, traveling, dating, and more. Have a great time while you can. You will recall those experiences basically forever. Story 14. Ages 30 to 35 are a man's prime. It is what ages 18 to 24 are for women. Your testosterone levels will be the highest ever, and you will be the most attractive to women. Do not be scared to get older. It is a fear that women spread in society. Story 15. In my 30s, what you do in your 20s will set up your 30s, so make it count. Prepare by finishing school or whatever it takes to get a good career, such as trade school or whatever interests you. Also, get in good shape. Story 16. Great. I stopped drinking. That was the key to everything. I went to therapy. That was the key to stopping drinking. All the hard work I put into 14 to 24 started to pay off. All the time I spent single on dating apps, promising myself I'd be the best boyfriend ever started to pay off. I basically feel like I'm retired with a wonderful wife right now. But I'm not finished. What do I want next? Better art? Kids? Travel? No. Well, maybe. But right now, I want to help men like you. What's your situation and what do you want? Story 17. More secure financially, but it is lonely at the top. When you get to the top, you will find that there is nothing there. Dare I say, there is even less there. Story 18. Could be better, could be worse. I am definitely a lot more emotionally stable now than I was in my 20s. I am still poor but working my way to wealth. Mentally, I am indifferent to life in general. Conceptually, I would not care if I died tomorrow, but I never know until I actually get into a life or death scenario. So, all in all, it could be better, it could be worse, but I am actively working towards better, if that means anything. Story 19. Pretty sick. Married a girl I met playing World of Warcraft. She is great. Bought a house with a low interest rate. Work is stable and high paying. My mortgage is my only debt. My retirement is on track. I have 2 paid off cars, a dog, a decent gaming PC, and a garden. Every year of my life has been better than the last. I am 31 now. Story 20. My husband is thriving at 35. He went from a pizza delivery person in his 20s to owning 3 successful food trucks. He says his 30s gave him the focus and patience he never had before. Plus, his dad body is pretty cute. Story 21. Just turned 30 this year, and am meeting a real estate agent next week to start the process of buying a house. I am feeling good but also anxious that everything might go wrong and that buying a house right now may not be the right decision. If any older 30-somethings want to ease my anxiety, I would appreciate it. Story 22. Financially, I am hanging in there. Physically, I am falling apart one joint at a time. Back pain, severe stress, weight loss, and headaches were not exactly on my 30s bucket list. Story 23. Mostly like my 20s, except I feel much more financially stable and comfortable, but also a bit more of a homebody, less inclined to randomly go out and so on. Story 24. My 20s were fantastic, though they were a bit challenging in terms of self-discovery. However, I discovered that traveling was an excellent way to learn more about myself. I have been fortunate enough to visit 64 countries. Now, at 34, I often reflect on my past and wish I had been more compassionate towards myself during my 20s. Story 25. It is literally better in every way. Life improves significantly after you get married and have children. It is impossible to describe when you can make your own friends. Story 26. A lot better. I really wish I knew what I know now 10 years ago. I would have been living better back then and would have been able to enjoy life more during my 20s, which were mostly depressing. Story 27. Still pretty bad. Now I work less and have much more money. I still feel empty. I have made no real connection. I do not date. I am not an interesting person. I have no goal or ambition. But now I could have a life if I knew where to start. Story 28. I overcame my fear of being too selfish and began creating the life I dreamed of, within the circumstances I was given. This required asking for what I wanted, both from myself and from others in my life. I am now more social, creative, and charitable than I have ever been. Life is good. For many others, it is not, and I do not take that privilege for granted. Story 29. I am proud of my 20s. I had some low lows and some high highs, but ultimately, with hard work and a little bit of luck, I have managed to become a person I love. I just turned 30 and I am struggling to find a new path to take. My comfortability has made me very complacent. I do not want to waste the work from my 20s by being stuck in the same pattern. So, I have had a slow start, but ultimately, I am excited to grow more. Story 30. I work in an industry full of older, jaded men. A common trend is how they still see me as a young man even though I am entering my mid-30s and my hair has more gray than several of them. I do not mind. What I observe is that the past is cumulative. Yesterday you were younger. That is how they thought of themselves. It depends on what you did with your yesterday that determines your future. Obvious and trite, yet true. There are no arbitrary age brackets beyond which renown and reward are miraculously yours. My 20s were dismal. I was responsible for much of that myself. My 30s so far have been worse, yet I am fighting against it rather than surrendering any control. I would have been much better off had I rolled back the starting date at which I took fate into my own hands. I am, however, not complaining about it. Story 31. Physically, I am starting to feel age creeping in at 35. If I do not stretch in the mornings, my back causes severe pain if I have to bend or lean over for more than a couple of minutes at a time. Financially, I am doing well. I am not chasing the dream. I am staying comfortable, and that is okay. I would love to be making enormous sums of money, but I have everything I need with the money we make. I am in the best mental health of my life. It was not long ago that I was nearly hospitalized for my own safety, and now I am much happier much more of the time. Store-bought dopamine still counts. That being said, I am not mentally well by any measure. This is better than I was, not good. Story 32. My 20s were all work and no play. I set myself up for success in my 30s. My 30s are going well. I am debt-free, looking to buy a house, and I am engaged to a girl who is out of my league. Story 33. Doing okay. My wife and I worked very hard to get to where we are financially. Then she was laid off about a month ago, so we need some things to fall into place. But if you had told 25-year-old me we would be here, I would have laughed in your face. Story 34. Compared to my 20s, it is great. I never thought I could get where I am, but I am incredibly grateful to be here. I have come a long way since I was 20. Story 35. Every year, my life has only gotten better. I spent my teens and 20s working and building a career. Now I am taking a step back and enjoying life. Story 36. It is strange and twisted, like receiving a bowl of rice on my grave after being a child who starved to death. My poor tortured spirit wonders what I should do with it. What is it even for? Is it a joke? Should I be upset? Should I be happy? It seems like it is too late. No doubt, I am damaged beyond the point of no return. However, it is still better than the past I am still living in. Story 37. It's great. Children become a lot more fun once they get older. I am making more money than I ever have. I actually have more time for hobbies than I used to. Story 38. Plenty of room for improvement, but I feel less pressure to find a romantic relationship and am really involved in my local music scene. Hopefully, I will make more after graduate school and get to travel a little. Story 39. It feels less like being on a ride and more like choose your own adventure. At some point, you have to make the decision to live deliberately. For me, that happened in my 30s after countless terrible decisions, but you live and learn. Story 40. A lot better than my 20s. I made plenty of wild mistakes in my 20s and felt invincible, but it set me up very well in my 30s by learning the hard way. It has been blessing after blessing. Story 41. I'm in my 40s now. The way to increase the probability of doing well in your 30s is to work hard in your 20s while taking care of your body. If you are single, do not waste your time and money chasing women. If you are doing well, you will know what you want in life more clearly and will be much more confident, so it should be easier to attract the woman you truly want. Good luck. Story 42. Incredible. I spent much of my 20s struggling and broke. Now I own property, have financial stability, and am about to travel the world for work. I got into a healthy relationship and we agreed to start a family together. Hard work really pays off, especially if that hard work is on yourself. Story 43. It's pretty fantastic. I am married for over 3 years and we have a baby boy. I have acquired my journeyman's license in my trade, so I am starting to see the money come in. My family is moving into a brand new construction-built home in less than 4 weeks. There are a lot of ups and downs with much doubt in your 20s. Just keep your head down and stay focused. The rest will fall into place. Story 44. Buy a house, a mortgage, whatever it is called in your generation. I like my job. At times, I hate it. My sweat equity put me ahead. Do not be selfish. Help people where you can. 20 turns to 40, one day at a time. Story 45. In my 20s, I worked very hard and was homeless, but my income was low for most of that decade. When I was 22, I only made $5,000 for the entire year. I made $30,000 one year, and I earned that amount more than once. I spent years living in a house in Southern California with 6 roommates. The power went out often, and there was no air conditioning. I was single for most of my 20s and spent 7 days a week either in school, at work, or studying for work. In my 30s, my income is high, more than $200,000 a year. I am married and about to become a father. I own my house and have a new car. My career is stable, and the work I did earlier has paid off because I fully expect to double my salary the next time I look for a job. So yes, things have gotten a lot better. Story 46. They are better and getting better still. But only because I made it happen. Got a new career, moved cities, went to the gym. You are 23. Do not wait for your 30s to make life better for you. Make it better now. Story 47. My 30s have been monumentally better than my 20s. I was just an idiot in my 20s. Did not save any money at all. Spent my weekends riding motorbikes and drinking, sometimes combining those two, and was really angry and argumentative with people too. When my partner and I turned 30, we quit our jobs, sold a bunch of stuff we had, and went traveling for 6 months, then settled down in a new city. I got a new job and began to actually treat the people around me better. I am about to turn 39 next week and have to say that I am far happier in life than any time in my 20s. Yes, parts of my 20s were fun, but I was honestly not a good person. We now have a home. I have a job with people I like in a stable industry, not earning a ton of money but enough for a safe and comfortable life. I exercise almost every day and spend the weekends doing a mix of fun, helpful, productive, and active activities with just a few drinks with friends occasionally. If your 20s are difficult, do not give up yet. You have plenty of time to turn it around and make a great life for yourself. Story 48. I am 33 years old. Things are better than in my 20s, but I still feel like a mess. I am 3 years into my construction career and make $65,000, but I am just making ends meet. I have been in a relationship for 3 years with a beautiful woman, but we do not see eye to eye on most things. My self-esteem and confidence have never been higher, but I still struggle with depression and anxiety, which consumed most of my 20s. My friends and I are too busy for each other and see each other only 1 to 2 times a month. I am definitely feeling like I am in a rut right now, but I am hopeful things will get better as long as I keep working hard. Story 49. 30s just looked more like I thought life should look like. 20s were challenging partially because I saw them in the wrong way and was trying to live like I was already in my 30s. If you want a reality check, ask yourself if what you're doing is what an average 20-year-old would do. I bet it is not. Then ask yourself if it's what an average 30-year-old would do. It is, isn't it? Story 50. I wish I could say that life is a blast now, but I settled for a woman who lost intimate interest in me once we had children. So it is kind of depressing. Despite that, I have 2 wonderful children, a house, a solid job, and some amazing friends. Story 51. I am 42 next week. I was diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and autism at age 37. So, things are now where I was hoping to be in my 20s. Keep on keeping on. Story 52. Well, with the current state of the economy in the United States, I am only technically doing better when ignoring the cost of living. Realistically, it feels about the same but with much less cocaine, so maybe I am doing worse. Story 53. As long as you do not give up, it can only get better. Try to focus on making small but consistent steps forward in whatever you do, and you cannot go wrong. Story 54. Life has challenges but is overall great. Who you marry will make or break you, no matter how well you did on your own in career, finances, training, and so on. I am married to an amazing woman, and every goal I achieved in my 20s before I met her at 30 has reached another level in my 30s. Story 55. Life is better for sure. I am not struggling in university anymore or living with my dysfunctional parents. I know more about myself and have created a life I can live easily and with little stress. I have now virtually everything I could have ever wanted, and for that I am incredibly grateful but also fearful that it could be lost. I am trying to take nothing for granted anymore. Story 56. Watching my male friends in their 30s is fascinating. The ones who struggled most in their 20s are absolutely succeeding now. My best friend went from being a perpetually anxious bartender to a successful software developer. Story 57. Personally, your 20s are for having fun, making mistakes, falling in and out of love, finding new and meaningful friendships, and possibly letting go of others. I spent my 20s trying to be an adult. I made many mistakes, made bad decisions, made great decisions, and had fun. It was only when I turned 30 that my life leveled up. I am 33 now, married, living in my wife's home country, driving a car I never thought I could afford, and working in a job I never saw myself doing. This may sound cliché, but it is the truth. The fun does not stop at 30. It gets so much better. Story 58. I got out of information technology, got a trade, and started working for myself. I do not think about money anymore. It is all about the warm feelings I get from meeting great people and helping them with their problems. Story 59. I am very fortunate to have laid the foundation in my early teens. Now my 20s are a lot easier, and I expect my 30s and 40s to be even more so. However, I do regret missing out on my teenage years. I am planning to make up for it in my 20s. Story 60. At 23, I quit drinking and found boxing. 19 amateur fights later, I am still going strong. I got my financial situation in order, have money in the bank, a decent paying job, and a standard 6-speed car I enjoy driving. Anything is possible, my brothers. I was down in the slums for a while before I worked towards an enjoyable life. Story 61. My 30s have been great to me as I am almost halfway through. I have an amazing wife, 2 beautiful babies, a new country, and my salary is 4 times higher. My 20s were tough, and I found that leaving your comfort zone is key to finding yourself, even if it means leaving your city or country and starting over. I am also at my peak athleticism and still actively playing basketball in recreational leagues with guys 10 years younger. Story 62. My boyfriend turned 32 this year, and it is like watching a completely different person compared to when we met in his 20s. He started his own business, got very into fitness, and actually knows what a skincare routine is. The best part is he is much more confident but much less arrogant than his 20-something self. Story 63. Pretty good. I found a job I want to make a career out of. It offers a pension and all. The pay is decent enough to get by and save a little, plus the benefits are great. In my 20s, I would have been looking for a warehouse position for $19 to $22 per hour with poor benefits instead of staying where I am now. Within 4 years, I will be earning around $25 per hour, which is still all right, and I will be able to work anywhere around the globe, mostly with only a few minor discrepancies in training standards. My advice is to find a job you can make a career. Honestly, look for city work. The pay will get you by, but your future will be secure. Story 64. Only 29, and this year has been the worst year of my life in many ways. Death, health scares, and mistakes. But it has also been the best year of my life in other ways. Learning from mistakes, growing as a person, becoming more emotionally secure, attaining financial security, and learning to control my anxiety. I believe my 30s will be better than my 20s. The 20s can be difficult, despite what people say, because learning to be an adult involves many growing pains and insecurity. My one piece of advice is to enjoy yourself, if that is your preference, because by your late 20s, most of your friends will have children and may not want to party as hard. If you are single right now, take advantage of the opportunity to date, but be responsible and avoid unintended pregnancies. Story 65. I am in my 40s now and settled down where I want to be, but my 30s were much better than my 20s. I was out of school and residency, dating a lot. My investments had grown enough that I had a substantial financial cushion. My salary allowed a very comfortable lifestyle, and I was able to travel to most of my bucket list destinations. I was never into partying anyway, so I do not think I missed out on much. The quality of the women I dated in my 30s was also much higher than the few I dated in my 20s. Therefore, concentrating on developing myself rather than chasing women in my 20s was the right decision. Story 66. Unless you are deceased or incarcerated, how is it even possible to be doing worse in your 30s than you were in your 20s? Story 67. 30 is not that old at all. I am still youthful and energetic, work out harder than I ever did before, and also make more money now. I just do less unwise things these days. Story 68. I am almost 31 years old. I am not doing better financially. However, I definitely believe I am doing better mentally. Do not stay in jobs that drain your energy or offer no work-life balance. Tell people to leave you alone in situations that you do not want to be in or that do not bring you happiness. In my 20s, I worked several customer service office jobs, including one at a Fortune 500 company. They looked great on paper but were terrible in real life. I also partied too much and lived with my mother and her husband for most of my 20s, which I hated. I have a girlfriend of 2.5 years now, and we live together in one side of a duplex we rent. We go out when we want, keep our social circle small, and live relatively simply. Life is good most of the time, at least. Story 69. I tell younger people all the time who are struggling with what to do with their lives that my life didn't really feel like it started until I turned 30. Forget mediocre. My 20s felt like I was completely lost and self-sabotaging. I spent most of my life, from childhood to my late 20s, extremely depressed, mostly due to poor and unstable family conditions. Generational trauma was bestowed upon me as the firstborn son. Left home and worked retail full-time after college, trying to figure out what to do with my life. Early 20s were spent working a dead-end job and in a committed relationship I wasn't actually happy with. I took a chance and moved across the country at 25 with no money. Got all the fun out of my system in my mid-20s. Started focusing more in my late 20s. I don't regret either. I'm glad I got it out of my system, and it built character. I worked on my mental fortitude, and finding the right therapist to overcome my past mindset was a game changer. I got my dream job right when I turned 30. I'm 32 now and in a manager role. I have a great career, things to look forward to, a great girlfriend, better mental and emotional clarity, and a better relationship with family. But I took on the responsibility myself, and I'm pretty thankful I did. I stopped blaming other people or situations I could control. Stay in the present and really decide what you want out of life. Plan and make goals, and don't be afraid to say no to things. I learned that the hard way, but I'm very happy now and in the best shape of my life. Story 70. No longer in a depressive funk, I have moved out of a toxic home, cut out some absolutely awful people from my life, fell in love with the woman of my dreams, moved into a really nice starter house together, and have 2 cats. Happiness-wise, I am leagues above where I was. The next step is better financial freedom and more travel. Story 71. Absolutely wonderful. The world is my oyster, and I am basking in its goodness. I am happier, healthier, more outgoing, and living my most authentic best self. My 20s were difficult, filled with taking care of others and losing myself. Story 72. High-functioning alcoholic all of my 20s and now sober from alcohol. Best shape of my life, smartest and happiest I have ever been. Things are very good and only getting better. Story 73. 3 things. I got my own place with no roommates. I got a car. I started making 6 figures. All three of these things helped my confidence and allowed me to start thriving in various aspects of my life. Story 74. Pretty damn good. Got a house, family, and cars I want. About to clear all my debts, although I didn't have much anyway, and also about to potentially buy my first proper high-performance car. That being said, I really enjoyed my 20s just hanging with friends, working, going to the gym, and playing video games. To be honest, as long as you have your health and are earning money, you need to just enjoy life. As a piece of advice, if I got a redo, I would have spent more time in my 20s trying to earn more money. Story 75. My 20s were fun, but my motivation for everything came from a lack of romantic success. In my 30s, I am doing well in that area. My girlfriend is awesome. However, there is less wild weekly excitement. I am also at a memorial for a friend who died today. Honestly, I am probably doing better, but it does not necessarily feel like it. Story 76. I am 27, not 30 yet, but for me, life got better once I started my career. I was unemployed after college but found work when I was 26. Money makes many things in life easier, more convenient, and less stressful. I paid off close to $15,000 in debt from credit cards and student loans, and for once, I have an emergency fund of $10,000 in savings. I am getting a better handle on my health issues and increased my salary from $71,000 to $91,000 this year. My goal is to make six figures by the time I am 30 and to keep living below my means. I just got a gym membership and have been investing more in my health. My 20s were horrible, and I was plagued with undiagnosed health issues along with poor relationships. COVID-19 affected my mid-20s from 2020 to 2022. When I was 23 to 25, I was broke and could not find a job after graduating. I had a lot of debt and could not afford simple things like gas. It was terrible, and I am just thankful it has gotten better. Story 77. My life became incredible in my 30s. In my 20s, I partied all the time, was broke constantly, never had a relationship, and worked an awful minimum wage job. In my 30s, I lost my virginity, got fit and strong at the gym, went back to school, secured a high-paying job, and had relationships every weekend until I met my fiancée. Life at 30 was amazing. Story 78. I might be starting a company building the thing I have always loved. 2 years ago, I was so far gone I did not even address myself as a person, but as a thing. Story 79. My early 20s were difficult. My mid-20s were amazing, more than I was able to recognize at the time. My late 20s were me trying to hold on to my mid-20s. Now, in my early to mid-30s with a wife and a child, I can honestly say I miss my mid-20s. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.